Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is just going to be a wrap up on how much this ITB Supra build has cost me. Spoiler alert, it's a lot of money and a lot of time. So if you're thinking of doing it to your own car, or if you're thinking maybe you can't afford to turbo your NA Supra and a throttle body kit is the cheaper way forward, no, I'm afraid not. When I went into this project myself, I knew it was always going to be a case that it's going to be an expensive job. Not only that, but not a lot of people have done it before, so it's just going to be difficult and time consuming and a lot of research, and it has been that. It has been a super rewarding experience though. The finished product, as hopefully you will have seen in the other videos, is amazing. It sounds incredible and I couldn't really be more happy with the result, to be quite honest. So a brief history on the car for those who are just joining the channel today. Basically, I decided about 2 years ago to put an individual throttle body kit on my Supra, my NA Supra, rather than turboing it, which seems like a silly idea, I guess, but equally it's something that's not really been done. There's one or two people that I've seen that have done this to their Supra. Mostly people just turbo their car, which makes sense because it's an easy way to get power, and obviously the sort of iconic Fast and Furious Supras and your Gran Turismo Supras, they're all turbos, so I can see why people go down that route. It's a very valid route. I just wanted to do something a little bit different. Just a brief update on the car itself since my last video. I've had one problem with it, the brake servo booster system that I've had to put on because obviously there's no vacuum coming from the inlet manifold anymore. The booster itself got stuck on, so I turned the car off and I could hear it whirring away in the engine bay, and went in there, and even with the car off, the keys out, it was still trying to keep the vacuum in the brake servo. Obviously that was slightly worrying because it was just constantly on, so not only would it drain down the battery, it's obviously kind of a fire risk because it's constantly running and running and running, and I didn't know if it would set fire or anything like that. I gave Liam a panic call and we tracked it down to being the relay, so I took the relay out and tapped it on the side of the car, put it back in, and it seemed to work again. So I had to go and find a replacement relay for that, and thankfully a auto shop that I went to had one lying around, so they just gave me that, which is really nice of them. So I guess, yeah, the main thing would be how much did this all cost? I want to sort of preface this and say that everything on a Supra is obviously more expensive anyway because you have a Supra tax. Nowadays these cars are getting more and more expensive, more and more sought after. They're rarer. They were cheap, very cheap at one point. Now any parts that you need for the car are just expensive, and everyone tries to ramp up the costs, and especially as they've got a really limited amount of spare parts being made for Toyota still. Now obviously none of this is OEM parts really anyway, but the Supra tax obviously carries on over to aftermarket parts as well. I guess the main reason it's so expensive as well, it's just not a common conversion. I mean, a lot of people will throttle body their, their Clio 172s or their Peugeot 205s, things like that. It's not a common thing to do with a Supra. As I said before in one of the previous videos, I think Brandon Taft is one of the only ones that I can find that's done it to a Supra. A few people have done it to 2JZ engines in other vehicles, but on a Supra itself, most people tend to just turbo the car. I think the main draw to the project in the first place would be that noise, because the problem is you have these amazing Supras, you put huge turbos on them, and you don't really let that 6-cylinder sound come out through that. It's all turbo noise, anti-lag systems, which do sound amazing, let's be honest. You don't really have that sort of 6-cylinder noise coming through, which I think is a shame because it is actually a really nice sounding engine. So in terms of taking on the project itself, obviously I had to do a lot of research into finding a kit itself, how all that kit would go on, what else I would have to do to it. And there's not a lot of information out there. The kit itself I bought from a company called EFI Hardware based over in Australia. That was specifically for a 2JZ GE engine, and obviously when I bought it I said that it needed to go onto a Toyota Supra, but I could only actually find one other kit that was out there on eBay, and I think that was nearly double the price. A lot of people who've done it before have made their own manifold and they've added on, say, BMW M3 throttle bodies, or even 6 AE86 or AE111 I think it is, the throttle bodies from that engine. So there are other ways to do it. I just kind of wanted a kit to be bought and not necessarily put it on and go, but you know, make my life a little bit easier, especially in terms of I don't have anyone to create a manifold, and I certainly couldn't do it myself. That obviously meant that because it's a custom made billet manifold, you know, custom throttle bodies, it's obviously more expensive than if I were to go down the route of making it myself. So that is something that I do want to add on there. There is ways you can make this cheaper. This is just the route that I took, and probably one of the easier routes. As I said, it is more expensive than turboing the car. There are lots of kits available for an NAT conversion, NA turbo obviously. If you're worried about cost, turboing is the way to get more power. You're not going to have as good a sound obviously, but you're going to get a lot more power from it. There are some similarities in terms of the steps. So for example, obviously I had to put a standalone management on the car to deal with the fueling, which I would have had to do anyway to turbo the car. And there are a few other steps which are similar. So if I did at some point want to further down the line turbo the car, it is possible. There are a few things I'd have to adapt with the throttle bodies themselves, but it is definitely possible. So I thought it was best to go through a itemized list of basically how much everything's cost, and then I can just list it up here, and then we will see what the totals come to and how much I've ruined my life. So the throttle body kit itself, with plugs, injectors, throttle position sensors, even like the little sock filters that I put on, and delivery, everything came to £2,618.48, and obviously because it came from Australia I had to pay import tax on that as well, so that was £403.12. I put Brian Crower cams on there, so that was 272 degree cams. They were £732. Exhaust manifolds, now obviously I bought one exhaust manifold from someone on my forum, and then that turned out to be not ideal, so I had to get another one. So I spent £313.86 on exhaust manifolds. I had to buy a Lambda sensor, that was £119.60. The brake servo booster kit, that was £325.99. As I said, that is to assist the servo system on the brakes because there's no longer vacuum coming from the inlet. Vernier pulleys, they were £180. I haven't actually gone down the route of adjusting the timing, advancing or retarding the timing on there. I just kind of kept them at the sort of normal level that they're at. Maybe that's something I could do a bit further down the line, try and play around with the timing a bit. I don't really know what I'm doing with that, so that would be a Liam job, or maybe something for Pip when he's got it on a dyno. The cam belt cover, the clear cam belt cover I got, that was £21.99. That was just from eBay. The inlet manifold gasket, that was 22 quid, again possibly from eBay. Standalone ECU, that was £947.56. That's a Link G4 Plus ECU. That was from Garage Whifbitz when they had a Black Friday sale, so shout out to them. The oil filter, £8.3p. The cam belt was £37.49. Rocker cover gaskets, £30.51. Exhaust manifold gaskets, £42.80. The Dizzy Delete cover, so that's obviously we're no longer using the distributor because we've changed it to coil packs. So the actual cover for that was £94.80p, which is quite expensive for just a piece of metal that goes over there, but it does make it look a lot better. And the coilpack conversion itself was £492. That is R35 coil packs, I believe, and there was various brackets and things that we had to buy for that. That was a real pain to wire in, but hopefully should lead to a more efficient ignition system. So the parts total was £6,390.23p. That's a lot. Obviously, a lot of that is not necessarily mandatory if you want to do this conversion yourself. So the camshafts I didn't need to get. I didn't need to change the exhaust manifold. The Vernier pulleys, the cam belt cover, coil pack conversion, obviously the Dizzy Delete. Those are things that didn't need to be done. The rest of the items, obviously, that are on there are pretty much mandatory. So the labour costs, so Pip was £400 for his mapping. I don't know how much he would normally charge, whether it was a sort of mates rates or not, I'm not 100% sure. So that was really good because he came out and helped work on the car when it was at Liam's, and then obviously ran the dyno on it, and then we had all these issues with the running and the hesitation, and he fixed them. So yeah, £400 is a good price for that. I gave Mike from the forum 80 quid for helping me diagnose the hesitation issue, so again a huge thanks to Mike for that. And the total cost of labour for Liam's work was £2,671.90. Now that's labour and also a few parts involved as well, things like fuel lines and a battery, all that kind of stuff, so that's all sort of jumbled in together there. So that's basically how much everything's cost. That's obviously a big number, but look, at the end of the day, I can probably justify it from the fact that the car itself is worth a hell of a lot more than when I bought it. I only bought the car for half that. I bought the car for $4.5 grand. It's now probably worth 20, I don't know. So I've spent a lot of the appreciation of the car on doing these things to it. You look at that figure and you think that sounds like a lot of money, but then you listen to it and it kind of makes sense then. I think it probably would end up costing most people a similar figure, because let's be honest, you wouldn't do all of this and then not change things like the cams and the exhaust manifolds, things like that. So that's about it for the wrap up. If there's any other videos you want to see with the car, just let me know in the comments. Obviously there's only a limited amount I can do at the moment with the corona situation. I'd love to go on like a road trip and things with it, maybe go up to Scotland, do the NC 500. That's a drive that I've always wanted to do, and to do it in that Supra would be great. There are a couple of things I need to sort out before I take the car and do any more videos with it. The brakes at the moment are feeling really spongy, and there's a lot of travel in the pedal before any braking actually happens. I think basically I've boiled the fluid a little bit from the track day. Whoopsie. So I need to get that sorted with Liam, just change the fluid. I've got some more fluid ready to go. I've also noticed that the temperature, it seems to be permanently fairly low, which normally is a sign that the thermostat is gone, but I only replaced the thermostat fairly recently, so I'm not sure what that could be. So again, I'm going to have to get that diagnosed from Liam. So Liam, if you're watching, you might have a call from me fairly shortly. If you want to see any more videos on the car, obviously check out all the videos I've done so far. There's a playlist on the channel as well, so you can watch that from beginning to end and sort of see a lot of the journey that I've been on with the car. I say we've been on with the car because there's a lot of people that have helped out with it. Thanks for all the comments and all the engagement that you guys have been doing on the videos. Really pleased with the fact that it's resonated with a lot of people. It's been great to do these videos, and hopefully more coming along very soon. That sounds like a Harry's Garage outro, so I'll try and change it over back to mine. So subscribe if you want to subscribe. If you don't, then don't bother, and I'll catch you on the next video. Merry Christmas.